What does that give you, those two? How do they complement each other? And, is it fun to kind of figure out ways to kind of use those guys?
Yeah, certainly. It's kind of, I think anytime anybody has two backs that produce, it's always kind of you use the thunder and lightning phrase, and that's kind of what it feels like. Tanks, they have different styles. They have enough blend of being able to do everything to where I think we can avoid some tendencies with that. And then, honestly, Dearness is a great blend, being kind of that third guy that supplements to where, like we went through a couple of game stretch without TJ in there, Dearness is able to fulfill that role of kind of being the pass catcher, doing the little slash, everything. And then the same thing, if we were ever to miss Tank, we feel like Dearness and TJ have a 1-2 combination that could do a lot of things. So, we're very excited about that backfield. Anytime you have good players, it's a good thing to have to deal with.
This is what you guys envisioned when you took Tank last year. It just took a little while to get here, right?
Right, yeah. And kind of the same thing we talked about, just letting Tank be able to grow and step into the roles we expected for him, producing the way he's been able to produce this season. It's been the expectation from the jump.
How has he improved pass protection wise? Does he still have a ways to go there or no?
Yeah, I think it's like any young back. I think it's always very different than coming out of college. College, they're not putting a lot of those scenarios of the third down for us is very different than third down in college, honestly. I mean, you still see teams in no huddle. They don't face as many third downs, I believe, in college football, and then there's more play action. So that's just pure drop back, exotic pressure looks, things like that. But in terms of identification, things like that, Tank does a very good job. And it's very important to him. He spends a lot of time on it. Right now, honestly, if you just have to rank the backfield, the other two guys are probably better at this point. That does not mean we don't believe Tank is good at that role right there, and I think he continues to grow. But we want to continue to put the best people in the best position to do what they do really well right now.
With Parker, this isn't a new thing for him getting his number called now that Christian is done for the year. But where do you think he's grown in the last year versus last year he gets his number called and it might have been a little hectic for him?
Yeah. Well, I think it's always hard just being a backup. These guys all come out of college being the guy, and now you're the backup. Whether you're the fourth, fifth, you're the backup at all spots. So Christian goes down, you go in the slot. If last year somebody else went down, he went outside. There's kind of that flexibility where maybe that's a little bit, maybe that's a little tougher just mentally having to prepare for that, and then it slows you down a little bit in the way you play. Where now I think Parker knows the ins and outs of the pass game and the offense as a whole. So it's not a big deal for him to just be thrown in the game and move around the formation, move around letter-wise, whatever he's playing, and be able to play at a high level. Now you just start to see these guys, as they settle in with their confidence, their skill set flashes more and more. You see that with, like we were talking about with Tank, Brenton, all these younger players. Now you're really seeing just the skill set that we saw originally when they were in their fourth, fifth year of college in one system. You were starting to see that come out a little bit more.
What is your reaction to trading a player like Cam and really what this opportunity means for Walker moving forward?
Yeah, excited for Walk. He's a guy that's continued to do everything we've asked of him, be selfless, put the team first. So excited for that. We'll definitely miss Cam. Cam's a guy that's kind of been a staple here for us since we've gotten here 3 years ago, whatever that may be. When you think of the Jaguars, honestly, Cam's one of the guys you think of. So it's tough to see somebody that gave so much for us while we were here in this regime of himself to the team. So that's always tough. You don't want to lose anybody. We become a tight-knit group in the unit room that we're in, but excited for Walker's opportunity. Know Walker will step into it and do a good job.
It's always seemed like when Walker's played, he's played because Cam was out, so it was always kind of a temporary thing. You think it can mean anything for him knowing that these next 9 games, it's not a temporary thing and like he's the guy?
Yeah, I think that probably helps in some way, shape, or form. And again, you'd have to get his mindset on that, but I could see where that would make sense.
What have you guys learned from maybe last year when you lost Christian for those 5 games? Now moving forward to this year, losing him for these last 9 games. What have you sort of learned from that can maybe help you this year?
That's a good question. I think a lot. It's always a game-to-game basis. So you're always going into every game, and you start the week with who's available to us. How do we utilize our best players? So if Christian's not available, that everybody kind of moves up the pecking order in that sense. And who's healthy, who's ready to go, that's always the starting point. So we don't even look at it as Christian's out for the season. We look at it, Christian is not playing this week. And the next week we'll deal with who's playing, who's available to us as that goes. So I think this is just kind of how you deal with a week. It's not something that we're not looking ahead to 5 weeks from now or anything like that. But, I think you do have the confidence in Parker. You have the confidence in Brenton to step in if the 12 personnel becomes a little bit more prominent moving forward in the pass game like it did last week. Obviously Brian has proven his worth in this system. Gabe continues to grow. Tim Jones has always been a reliable, steady force for us when he gets his chance to contribute. So I think you just have confidence that these guys just continue to grow in the system.
If BT can't go, how do you replace him?
Same thing. I mean, it's just what gives us what we're looking for. If we're looking for a speed element down the field on a certain concept, who is available that can give us that aspect of things? I mean, it's kind of the same thing of building a game plan. If he can't go, you have contingency plans of this is what's going to give us what we want on this particular play. If he can go, how do we mix him in? I think the challenging thing is always when you don't know, when a guy is truly day-to-day like this, of you've got to build a plan without him, but then have your areas to insert him if he makes it to game day and things like that. So that's always a little bit more of a challenge. But every single play we're looking at, the people we put on the field, what do we expect the defense to respond with? What does that mean defensively, coverage-wise, front-wise, pressure-wise? What are we going to get from them if we do this?
This probably isn't an answerable question, but how do you start fast? I mean, it's been such a topic this week.
Yeah.
How do you, I guess, approach that?
Yeah, it's certainly something we're looking into because, I mean, the statistics of gaining an early lead at the end of the quarter, into the half, things like that are critical. It changes the way you play the entire game if you're playing with a lead versus playing from behind. So that's something we're looking at. But, you know, when we look, we got to be efficient early on in certain situations. There's some areas of our game where we're not as efficient early in a game, and we kind of find our stride later, and we got to figure out what that is. Are we as coaches putting our players in the best possible position early in a game to maximize the look they're getting, to have confidence in what they're doing, getting the ball to our best players early, doing things our quarterback's comfortable with? How do we get them set? Does it go back to Saturday night walkthrough of understanding what we're looking at? Does it go back to our pregame routine Sunday so that the first snap we're ready to roll? Does it go back to what we practiced throughout the course of the week? So all things that we're continuing to look into because we understand the importance of scoring early.
What did you like about Trevor after adversity hit the other day twice? Like he kind of came back from that twice and led some of his best drives of the season.
Trevor's, I mean, part of it's just in those situations, those circumstances, your character gets revealed. Your football character, but you're just character. Trevor, I've never seen Trevor flinch, honestly, in all the things that have happened. Him playing hurt, guys getting hurt around him, guys he relies on all the time, new faces in the huddle. Sometimes he doesn't know until he's in the huddle that somebody's out. You know, the communication goes through the headset, so-and-so's out, and maybe it doesn't always get to him. He looks around, calls a play, and there's somebody standing there he didn't expect. He never flinches. He just continues to be unflappable, steady force for our team, honestly, in the offense in the huddle. And I think part of it, he has a lot of confidence in those guys. He spends a lot of time off to the side, throwing with those guys, talking with those guys, just spending time with them to where not only does he have confidence in them, I think they know he has confidence in them and he believes in them. And I think that helps empower players to play better. So, you know, I can't say enough good things about the leadership he's shown for the 3 years I've been here, but obviously last week when, you know, bullets are flying and things happen, people go down and you got to respond, and this is what's asked of you as a franchise quarterback. And I thought he rose to that challenge and put us in position to win the game.
Did that inspire more confidence in some of those guys that you do have to rely on now with injuries, you know, guys making plays
Yeah.
in a crucial situation?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think anytime you see those guys, you believe they can, but until they're in the position, until they do it, you really don't know. And so, you know, there was a lot of times, there were probably times I was reading on the call sheet, I just, you know, kind of Ron Burgundy it and read 11 personnel, and then everybody's yelling, you don't have 11. And so we only had 12. So then we just I'd really just call a concept at times and say, you guys line up where we need to line up, like get where we need to get to be able to run this concept. We ran, I think we had a big third down conversion to Brenton Strange with Evan and Brenton in a position that they were not in as we practiced that. But obviously we didn't have anybody else. They had to go. They know exactly what to do. They understand the concepts. Going back to our work in April, we do a lot of this stuff where we just call concepts, no formations, and you guys figure it out. And then that work kind of comes in. But again, being in a second year, I think obviously helps Brenton. Standing next to Evan, them talking through the concept, Trevor communicating in the huddle. There's a lot of those things that we had confidence in, but obviously to see it show up and come to fruition in a critical moment is a big deal for all of us. Thanks, guys.
And it's kind of really kind of what we're, you know, they do a great job of, I mean, the conversion rate is at an all-time high, right? I mean, so they've been stopped, and you just got to, it's a strain play, and you just got to outstrain them. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You got to play lower than them, you got to push harder than them, and they executed at a high level. We're going to have to do a really good job of just executing and pushing, and then the other thing, and let's not get into that situation. That's a lot easier said than done, but let's keep them out of the 3rd and 4th and 1s.
AJ Brown's been eating up a lot of man coverage this year. How do you combat trying to cover him and Devontae Smith and all this talent they have?
They've got some really good talent, really good talent. He's playing at a high level since he's been back. Physical receiver, really physical, catch point, strong hands. You know, he's really good on press coverage, getting off the line, and he has great speed. You know, so it's going to be a good challenge. We've just got to play our game. We got to get in and, you know, make it a physical game for him. You know, we got to play some coverage over the top so he doesn't just catch fade balls and things like that people are doing. But 2 really good receivers, and then the speed that Devontae has. I mean, he can take the top off any coverage. You know, so just executing. We're going to have to play some shell to it. You know, definitely have to stay over the top of those guys and then mix it up. Just keep mixing up the coverages on him, and just so he doesn't get a single high read and goes out to the X or Z. You know, every play.
If you get Andrew Wingard back, how much does that change your rotation at safety?
A little bit, but you know, we've got the guys that have, you know, he's been out for a long time, and so he's working his way back, and so you know, we'd like to have him out there and get a certain number of snaps and see how that goes. But he's pushing, he's pushing really hard. Yesterday he had a good day. Today will be another good test, and by the end of the week we'll have an idea of how much exactly, you know, as he goes through the process of the week.
Gibson allowed to start practicing, I guess they just announced a little bit ago.
Yeah.
So how good is it to have a veteran guy back there? Obviously, you know, he hasn't played it all yet either, but I mean, having a veteran guy back there that's done it for a while, how much will that kind of factor into all of that back
It's great to have him back. We're excited, really excited. But he hasn't done, you know, he hasn't practiced yet. So that it all goes into it, you know. And so we'll get him out there, get him moving around. Obviously, we got to knock the rust off, you know, those type of things. And then get him in you know, in the rotation and get him some plays and see where he's at, and then take it from there. You know, where it all the pieces fall. We just don't know. It's so early. You know, he hasn't even practiced. So we'll go, you know, through the week and then figure it out from there.
What have you seen from Jarian the last couple of weeks as he's kind of settled into the nickel role?
Yeah, confidence. Really, he's confident every game. You know, he even said it after the game is. He's feeling more comfortable out there. He's playing more snaps, you know, the different coverages and the things that position has to do, and just how he's moving around and playing physical. And you know, the play made in the red zone was a big time play, really really good. So, but it just continue to see him grow at that position, and he could still go outside if we need him to spell, but he's kind of settling into that nickel position, and he's doing a good job right now at it.
When you went back to the film, were you able to kind of pinpoint what happened on that last big pass by Green Bay and how you guys can kind of address it moving forward?
Yeah, sure. I got to change up the coverage. It's on me. You know, I got to change up the coverage. Don't play different coverage in that situation.
What's been the challenge to get Eric on the field more than maybe 23 snaps he played? And have you guys thought about just having him play defensive tackle at 3 tech, just where he's been comfortable at in his career so far?
Yeah, we discussed inside, outside, you know, kind of with the guy. And when we signed him, it was more of an outside vision and move him inside on 3rd down, just depth chart wise and things and kind of where he wanted to play and things like that. You know, a lot of the situational stuff, putting him inside, you know, that's where he's playing it, 2-minute, things like that. But he definitely can go inside. It's just when do we want to start working him in there? And you may see him, you know, coming up here, you know, moving inside on nickel situations, things like that. But he's got to continue to play the left end position, and that takes a little time of playing from inside and outside, and you know, just we got to get him a few more snaps out there and get him. He's comfortable at it, just more snaps at it.
Everybody good?
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Roger.
Have a good day. Thank you.